Rogers trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, brother?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Pod Street Bullies. My name's Derek.
And I am John. What's going on, everybody?
And we are joined by Matt Casey. What's up, man?
Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight? Feeling spicy. Feeling energized. Let's do this.
Yeah.
No,
You
no,
makes
not at all.
two of us. All right. Makes one of us. All right, then. I guess one of us has to carry the show like they do week in and week out.
Hoagie's not here, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Someone's awake. So not too much has happened. A lot of losing has happened these past couple weeks, or this past week.
Doomsday button.
Yeah. So we've alluded to it a couple times on the show, you know, the bottom falling out of this team eventually. And folks, I think we're here. I think we've reached our destination. But let's talk about let's take this step by step.
The elevator into the mine shaft, and
like we've entered the seventh circle.
Right.
This is now we're all, doom and gloom here, obviously, but regardless where we're at, how we've gotten here, let's talk about the key components and why we're here.
Mhm.
And right off the bat, I'll go to you, John. What's the one thing that's led us to where we are right now in terms of the potential downfall?
I mean, we're up against superior opponents. Our defense is awful. I'm getting shades of last year. Whenever you give up 6 goals, you shouldn't win a hockey game. You just can't be giving up 6 goals to the Boston Bruins, to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and expect to win hockey games.
Mhm.
Luckily, we were able to get back in it against Boston. But I said something similar. You giving me a look, right, Casey? But wasn't it the final score 6-5?
6-5. I was going to say
5-2 Toronto, I think.
you can't expect to win a game when you give up 6 goals, but you got to expect to win a game when you get 5 goals.
Well, so that's what I was just about to say, because I had said something similar to that last week or the week before, where it was like, when you score that much, you have to win the game.
Yep.
So it's a combination of both. And I understand, that our blue line is pretty depleted at this point, but we weren't supposed to be here in the first place.
Mhm.
I'm not using that excuse when this team should have been a bottom 5 team in the first place, right? Like, I'm at the point where it's like, we're in playoff position. I'm going to be super critical and talk about this team as if it is a playoff team.
Mhm.
I don't care who's on the blue line. We need to be playing better.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and the blue line, I feel like, is a big component of this because 3 of our starters right now are out injured and really no signs of returning. We were told that we'd have an update within about a week or two. We haven't had a single update. I'm going to go extremist here. Sounds a lot like the Ryan Ellis situation.
Yeah.
Not saying that's the case, but regardless, not optimistic by any means. I mean,
No.
What are your thoughts, Casey?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we go back to the original question of one thing, which John took to be 4 things, then I would say
I'm on spring break. I don't count.
I would say the toughest part of the schedule by far, with a completely depleted back end. And, I'm also including the goalie situation there too. Like Urson, it's like, don't fault him, but he hasn't exactly been playing really lights out.
Right.
Sandstrom had an okay outing, but then he gives up. It's like, oh, there's a beach ball coming over my shoulder in the 3rd period. Oh, there's the 6th goal. We're just not getting the back support, even when we get the goal support. And,
Right.
It's overall just the the structure and team defense that has carried this team
It's
and
not-
the transition game that really helped define it is just depleted. And everybody wants to point to the Sean Walker trade. I don't think it's not just that.
Right.
It's
Right.
four of your 6 defensemen that were here 12 days ago are not currently playing.
Right.
And like, I don't know any team that can really overcome that. It just sucks. It's coming against like the perennial teams versus like, oh, Montreal, Columbus,
right.
San Jose, but so I just can't help but it's just bad friggin' injury luck right now. And you got to think that if Nick Sealer's sitting out, that's got to be a tough injury, man. That guy doesn't sit out.
Yeah.
Can I ask a sidebar question really quick, Derek? And maybe you can be the
who's
one to
gonna
answer it. But
stop you.
this is something that I think has puzzled me the past few weeks. It's like I understand trading Sean Walker from like a rebuild standpoint, but at the same time, is it negligence to trade that guy when your blue line is so depleted and you're in a playoff position? Like I understand long term, right? That makes a ton of sense, but like we are in a playoff spot.
Right.
Blue line is in shambles, and you
I think
trade.
you answered your question there, though. Like we're playing the long game here, and don't get me wrong. Like you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. 2010, big evidence there. Last day of the year we get in, and then we make a run to the Cup Finals. However, Briere and Jones have both been very vocal in regards to staying and sticking to the course. And Walker made the most sense. It was the biggest return you could get on an expiring deal.
Right.
And, there's even talks now about how Tortorella had mentioned, like, there's interest in bringing him back. Like, I'm a fan of that. I think for the right price, sure, why not?
Right.
Given what's going on right now with the fact that no one knows what's happening with Sealer. No one knows what's happening with Drysdale, Ristolainen. Christ, who knows? Okay, that's one guy you can depend on.
Right.
Who stayed healthy throughout this entire year, plays a good style of hockey as well from the blue line. There should certainly, I hope, should be mutual interest. It seemed like Walker enjoyed his time here. I think he gelled well with the team too. But it's a long game here. I get it. You're in a playoff spot, but can you sustain that playoff pedigree long enough to justify not trading your biggest trade chip at the deadline this year?
Right. I mean, I have more thoughts, but I do want to hear Casey's thoughts before I expand a little more.
Right.
I would say I don't think we knew what Sealer's fate was at that point of the trade. Because if you recall that the trade happened not the Thursday of the deadline. I think it happened like Tuesday. And I think maybe Sealer got hurt that night, or it was just still up in the air.
Sure.
And, Drysdale, I don't think we're seeing him again this year. Ristolainen, who knows what's happening.
Right.
So Sealer's our best shot to bring it back. But is it negligence, like short term? Like potentially. But I don't know. I do think that the short term pain is going to be worth the long term success. Knock on wood, hopefully.
Right.
Derek, I'm not buying bringing him back, man.
No, I don't
either.
either.
I think if
Look,
we were
I'm not
if we
saying
were
it'll
going to do
happen.
it would have happened already. And like, yeah, we got a first round pick, but like we know what he was looking. I mean, well, apparently what he was looking for, and we weren't close.
And I'll clarify, like, I'm not saying I think it will happen. I'm just saying I'm not against it happening. I truly think he's outpriced himself from Philadelphia.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's like I totally understand, right? We're rebuilding it, and I like that plan. And I'm not saying that I necessarily disagree with the trade, because I do think obviously long term it makes the most sense. But it's just like for the group that's on the ice this season, you know what I mean? It's like I think it's really hard to just be like, well, we're constantly looking toward the future when you're in a playoff spot. And at that point in time, a pretty solid position too, where it's like, I think that's the thing I battle with, where it's like, obviously I know we're planning for the future, but I just think that it's like for this particular group, that must be somewhat deflating.
Here's what I would say though, John, is that like, if the return on Walker would have been like a second round pick or something like that, I think that maybe would have. I don't know if they would have done it. Maybe they would have. I don't know.
Right.
I agree with that.
The other thing that I do think is just shady is this Ryan Johansson BS that's happening as part of this trade, which like, okay, now we're stuck. I mean, is this this is another Ellis situation where we got traded a guy who has a bum leg or just like doesn't want to play, and now we got to keep him on the roster and can't fill that spot because he's technically on a roster and in doing rehab as a flyer.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing with that too is that he cleared waivers. He's supposed to be down with Lehigh Valley, but he's with the Flyers. So like, I think there is a quote unquote shit or get off the pot deadline in regards to whether they keep him with the Flyers or send him down. But to me, like, I don't know. I mean, if the relationship with Tortorella isn't contentious, like people have said, I think you gotta play him.
Right.
Yeah. Again, barring injury too. If he's truly injured, okay, maybe that's what's not allowing him to go down to Lehigh. I don't know. I'm not involved in that. I haven't done my research there. But like, if he's not injured and there's no contentious relationship with John Tortorella, that man needs to plug into the lineup because he's got to earn the $4 million as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. I agree. I'm also like, I want to be cognizant of the fact that we're still a month out and this stretch sucks. And I don't think it's going to get any easier over the next week. And we're all going to be like in a dark place. But what I'm looking for, you know what? I'm going to put a pin in that because that's going to be in the week ahead. So I'm going to put a pin in that. Derek, what's the one thing? Why does this team suck to you?
I think so. I think the most crushing thing about it is the fact that we've gotten this far and we've maintained a playoff spot. And then, much like you both have alluded to here, this is the toughest stretch that they have faced all year. And it just so happens to come against teams like Toronto, Boston, the Rangers, the Canes, the Panthers, the Lightning, like all those teams that are sitting in the top three of their division. And all in the Eastern Conference.
All elite Eastern Conference teams.
Right. Like, you couldn't have asked for a worse way to end the year. Like, to a true warrior, they're like, yeah, well, we'll test ourselves. Like, I'd rather a cakewalk. I would. Christ, that way we can just be like, okay, yeah, so we got San Jose this night, Chicago that night, Montreal the next. Like, I'd rather those teams because that would at the very least instill a little bit of confidence in me regarding the outlook for the rest of the year. Now, given the last couple games too, I don't know. It's hard for me to see this team maintaining their playoff spot. I hope so.
Right.
But
well, if they get in, they've proven that whoever it is going to Irish step all over our faces.
Right.
I mean, it's not even going to be a contest.
So, are you doing your Godfather imitation? What the hell is going on? I think the only thing we have going for us, and this is so not cool, but like the only thing we have going for us is that the teams chasing us are faltering just as hard as we are. Yeah, I mean, like,
I love it.
The Islanders are like creeping up, but like they got
Washington too.
Yeah,
Washington too. Did I look today and it was like they have a goal differential of -30.
Yikes!
Sure didn't help that when we played.
What?
Nope. Now, Casey, you had mentioned it maybe like 5 or so minutes ago, but Sandstrom. So I know obviously the big thing a couple weeks ago was like get Cal Peterson the F out of Philadelphia. Has he done enough to warrant his spot on the roster for the rest of the season in terms of what we've seen from him and what we've seen from Cal Peterson? Because I have my thoughts. I'll pin them until you guys opine here, but
you go first, Casey.
I think you have to, man. Like, as much as you don't love, the MO on him is he always gives up the one soft goal a game, and we certainly saw that in Boston with that 6th goal.
An understatement.
But
baby shit salt.
That outing, that outing against the Penguins, a not good Penguins team where you give up 7 and like 3 of them are short-sighted, nothing shots.
That hurt.
You can't have it. Like, you just can't have that going down a run. And like, I think we saw the severity, but I think we probably downplayed the loss of Carter Hart and like what the luxury that we did have, and be like, trade Carter Hart. We have Ursa now. It's like, dude, that
was our strongest position. Honestly, that tandem right there. That was one of our biggest advantages that we had over other teams like the Isles and that. that's, I think, the toughest part for me is that obviously crazy, unfortunate circumstances and, allegedly. But yeah, that it sucks for the team, in regards to the goaltending position.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, for me, it's like, which terminal illness would you prefer? It's like
Cancer or Parkinson's.
Neither of these two are going to cut it. I guess Sandstrom, because I have, slightly a little more faith in him.
Not saying much.
It's not saying much. Yeah, I don't really trust either of them. I know you can't run Urson into the ground, but
also, even when Urson's getting in, man, like he's getting run out of the goal.
Right.
Like getting pulled in 2 of your last 3 starts. Is that what it is? Like,
yeah.
That's
I think too, like you've seen, and I won't even say historically because it's not that long of a time, but like given Sandstrom's track record, he has typically performed better in the NHL than he has the AHL. But right now, man, it's tough for him. Like that man has probably given up just as many, if less, goals than have hit the post. Like, I mean, is that anybody else noticing how many pucks ring off the post for that guy?
Good positioning. Good positioning. Yeah.
Great positioning by the crossbar. Yeah. But like, I think it was Pittsburgh. There were like 3 within a matter of like a minute or two. It's like ping, ping, ping. And we're like, what the hell,
Yeah.
You got to roll with Sandstrom. That's my opinion. I think Peterson's not what he should be, not what the Flyers need right now. Yeah. But this goes back to my point prior to the deadline where it would not have hurt to go out and get a veteran backup.
Right. I mean, they went and got Jack Johnson. They couldn't, or the other Johnson.
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson. Right.
Eric Johnson, Jack Johnson. Who gives a shit?
He doesn't sing banana pancakes. He sings blueberry muffins. But like they went and added him. They couldn't have just went and got a backup goalie too. Negligence.
I don't consider that
Guilty
negligence.
as
They
charged.
needed somebody on the blue line, given the fact that these injuries piled up. I think they knew these injuries were a bigger deal.
What if they didn't know that they needed somebody to back up Sam
they
Ersson?
did. But here's the
Negligence.
thing. It's not negligence. They made an educated decision because it was likely one or the other. You think Briere was going to give up even more draft picks for a goalie now that he had just given up a draft pick for Eric Johnson?
I don't know.
That's just my take on it.
The whole puzzles me. I don't know. The whole thing puzzles me. It's just like we're in a playoff position. We're competing for the playoffs. And the people on the ice on the team don't give a damn about the draft pick. And it's like obviously we have so many other factors at play, but I just can't help but think that selling Wheeler affected the mentality of this team. That like
You mean Walker?
Walker.
Yeah.
Who the hell's Wheeler?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Blake Wheeler.
Blake Wheeler. Walker Wheeler.
Pete Wheeler, backyard baseball legend.
I just feel like selling him affected the mentality of this team where it's like, I don't know. It's just a different team now.
I feel like that in tandem with the Sealer injury, like it's certainly impacted
Absolutely.
it.
Suck
And
the air
I
out
think
of the
I think
locker
you
room.
could have survived one or the other, but like having that hit both simultaneously within a week, it's tough to overcome. Now, I'll be a little bit optimistic in that. Like, all right, we have a week left of like really brutal games.
Awful.
We have 4 more like really brutal games. Can we eke out 3 points, 4 points? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I'm not confident right now, dude.
But the way I'm
Given the
looking
last
at it
week
is
and a
like,
half.
can we still have like what 2.5 weeks after that of winnable hockey games?
Right.
And so like, can we stay afloat? Can we get some luck on the scoreboard with the teams chasing us, like Detroit, Washington, the Isles, like all 3 of those teams chasing us? Can we just stay afloat?
Well, and
Keep
the
going into
reality
those
is
last two
that like Washington and the Islanders, to my understanding, have a very similar march to us. Like I'm just quickly looking at Washington's remaining schedule in March, and they're playing the Flames right now. But then they play Toronto, Carolina, Winnipeg, Detroit, Toronto, Boston.
Oh, that's a tough one. That's tough.
That's brutal.
Islanders' schedule doesn't look that different either. I mean, they've got Carolina tomorrow night, Detroit, Winnipeg, Jersey, Florida, Tampa. But then they've got the same quality. They've got the same quality opponents like towards the end that we do. Like they've got Chicago, which we have Chicago. They've got Columbus, that we have Columbus. But they've also got the Canadians again. But they've got the Rangers twice, and then they end the season against the Devils and the Penguins in their last 2 games.
Who's our last game against? Washington. Like high noon, baby. There it is. That would be something.
The way this is formatted right now in regards to the schedule, I don't think it favors any which team. I mean, both teams have terrible schedules in regards to the strength of the schedule. So, I mean, it's going to show who's going to gut it out. Who's going to gut it out till the end, get the point that matters most, because it's going to end up being like a 1-point race at the end of the season.
I mean, would you argue that it's essentially 4 teams for 2 spots? I mean, are we confident that Tampa Bay is a wild card team?
I am. I think they are.
Because so then you have the Flyers, Washington, and the Islanders, and Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit would just be the wild card spot, but the Flyers could have the Metro or the wild card.
Detroit's
spot.
most at most vulnerable right now because they only have 1 spot that they can take. Like
they're also 2-8 in their last 10.
Yeah. So it's like Washington, the Islanders, and Philly. Technically, there's all 3 of those teams theoretically could get in, but if Tampa locks in that second wild card, then you have 2 spots for 4 teams essentially. So and then with Detroit, they only have 1 spot that they could potentially get.
Yeah, and their downfall too, I feel like benefits not just the Flyers, but all the Metro teams, because if they slide off, then that second wild card spot's open to all the Metro teams, the Islanders, Caps. I don't know where the Devils are, if they're even close to a playoff spot.
I think they're toast, man. Like I think they're officially they have the same amount of games and they're 8 points back. So I mean, not impossible, but like they're not looking great.
Want to really deem this episode explicit? Fuck them. I don't care.
Right.
Glad to see.
The Penguins and the Sabres both have 69 points.
Nice.
Not nice because it's the Penguins, but more so the number.
Yesterday it was 59 degrees out, and I said to Carrie, I was like, it's nice minus 10 outside.
And she probably rolled her eyes like my wife would, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, great, my water just broke, John. Have fun.
Have fun making those jokes to the doctors, you child. See, I have so, and again, this might just be the fact that we just got through a really tough stretch and lost a lot of games here, but I'm having a hard time believing that this team is going to hold on to their playoff spot.
Dude, we've only lost 2 games in a row. Imagine what we're going to be talking about a week from now if we lose the next 3. Like, we're going to be like, okay, I got the rope. Here we go.
5-alarm fire right now. Everything's just went to shit. Take into account the fact that we have repeat opponents, Toronto, Boston. Like, yeah, you could say, okay, like they're going to be out looking for revenge. Like, is that actually going to happen? Are they going to be able to channel that frustrations from the prior game? Now, did Toronto do us somewhat of a favor and give us a little bit of extra motivation putting out their top power play unit when they were up that many? Sure. But are we going to be able to translate that? Like, that's my concern, because this team, man, there's still effort, but it is certainly not where it was, 2-3 weeks ago.
I think the other thing, I mean, we've ripped the D, and rightly so, and Stahl
so has every other team we played.
Yeah, Stahl looked like a friggin' Pee-wee player the other night. Like he looked terrible. Yeah. But Owen Tippett, he's kind of been lost in the shuffle. Frost had a really nice goal the other night, but like we're connecting. He's been shown. He's still noticeable.
Sean Couturier, he's had 4 points in 2 months.
Like,
there's
we need our
rumors
best players to be
healthy
best players, and
scratch
they're
next
not
game.
right now.
Right.
There's rumors about Couturier being a healthy scratch potentially. Playing 11 minutes a night, centering lines with guys like Delorier, and I mean, let's get into a little bit of the philosophy behind that. Casey, are you a fan of that type of coaching?
In a hunt, no, but I'm also just like, you know what, Tortorella, at least you're consistent. At least you're like you say you're going to hold everybody accountable regardless who they are. All right, man, you're doing it. And
where's Couturier from?
Where's Arizona?
Arizona,
yeah. No more games against Arizona. Sorry.
All right.
But I think
Konechny's from Toronto, isn't he?
I'm okay with it. He hasn't played well, and maybe that, maybe there is a little spark in there. Maybe the guy just needs another couple days off. Like, he's getting old, he's coming off back surgery. Like, maybe he just needs a little bit of a, break to get back into the swing of things. But I don't like it, but at least he's consistent, man.
Right. Do you think that plays a part, though? I don't want to say he's supposed to be getting more leeway because of the surgeries and the fact that he was off of hockey for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, to me, this, and I've been vocal about my support for Tortorella and the way he coaches and what he gets out of his team. And I saw, and I apologize because I'm not going to be able to quote the person on this. So if whoever was that tweeted this out is listening, here's to you.
Stole it.
It's the coach's mentality where I think it might have been Kevin Kurz. I could be wrong, but he said about how the coach would rather the players hate him and form a bond over that than him be a coach that, players could walk all over, which I like that. Now, I don't like the fact that he's saying, like, let the players hate me. Like, no, you don't want the players to hate you. Like, there needs to be the respect there. But I get the point. I get the overarching point in regards to let that culminate and let that bring the team together so that it forms a stronger bond. And these guys depend on each other. They're playing for each other, not just the name on the back, whatever it might be, all the cliches that go with it. Like, I like that style and that approach because personally, I think that works. That would work for me. Like, if there's a mutual, like, if I hate somebody and someone else hates somebody, I'm like, hey, buddy, we're friends now,
It's very very Miracle-esque of him. Is like, if he was gonna, if Herb Brooks was gonna bench the captain of Eruzione, like, he would bench anybody, and that's kind of what we're seeing now. And I'm not saying it's not warranted for Couturier, but like, that's a big deal, man. You were named captain 3 weeks ago. You've played like absolute dog crap since then,
right,
dude? Right. You're accountable. Like, you got to figure it out. And sorry, go ahead.
No, you were in mid thought. Go.
I lost it. Thanks.
All right. Well,
John.
I just think that, like, you have to also view it as John Tortorella is trying to solve a problem, right? And he's doing everything that he can. And although it's going to be that he's benched because of poor performance, there's also the mentality of like, well, maybe he does need rest. Like, maybe we have overworked him. At one point, right? Wasn't his ice time like 20 minutes or something crazy?
It was like 26 minutes.
Yeah,
right.
They threw him right into the flames.
Right. So, although we're going to jump to like, ooh, he's in trouble. Like, it really is John Tortorella trying to just figure out, okay, do you need to rest a little bit more? Is that what I need to do?
Ooh, the NHL's version of load management. Interesting.
It's a good point because it's, what he's trying to do is find the new, like, the new pathway through this thing. And it's like, okay, we don't have Sean Walker or Nick Sealer. They were our flashlight and our bulldozer. Okay, how do we get through this path with Ryan Ginning? Is that his name?
Adam
Ginning.
Ginning.
And Zamula. Like, how do we do this? I will say that Tortorella, I think, also probably. I'm still frustrated that he blew his lid and got kicked out of the game. And got that suspension because, like, that sure as shit didn't help anybody. We saw a different team on here, and I think that this is still the lag effect. And there was a difference. I didn't watch the Boston game in full transparency. I just watched the highlights of it. But that's a different team that's coming back down 3 goals in the third period and still coming back and making a shot out of it. It's also a different team that is 2-2 with the top team in the East after 2 periods. And you're just like, they just got to solve that that 2-minute span where they let one up, then one becomes two within a minute. And that stinks of like the Flyers of like 2 years ago.
Right. I feel like we've been talking about that for a long time now.
Yeah.
Longer than I'm comfortable admitting. Like the one thing I am seeing, and I will give this team its flowers over, is that the quit is not there. They're just not giving up. They are fighting and scratching and clawing their way back into these games where otherwise, like you said 2 years ago, you can count them out after they get a 2-goal deficit. That's, I think, the most encouraging part, which again, we've spoken about this, I feel like at length, even earlier in the season, because they were battling every single night for every inch of that ice. And to me, it's taken a bit of a step back because we were used to tying up the game, taking it to overtime, maybe even winning the game, whether it's in regulation or overtime. Now we're seeing it like subside a little bit
for overtime right now.
Right. Like overtime, 1 point, just 1 point. Like I'm fine with that. Like, I mean, when we took Toronto to overtime and everybody's like, we absolutely should not have gotten a point out of that game. That's the type of stuff that makes me at least somewhat happy because again, lose a point, whatever you want to call it, what it is, feel however which way. I'm okay with that in games like that, in those situations where we otherwise shouldn't have gotten a point.
Right.
However, the effort is not at the level that it was. And I think that the grind of the schedule is getting to these guys a little bit. And I think that's what Tortorella is trying to, what's the word I'm looking for here? I think that's what Tortorella is trying to gear his players towards. Anticipating that wear and tear and anticipating the fact that this game is going to grind you down. And it has to this point because it's been a rough season. But somebody's going to need to step up. Somebody's going to need to grab life by the balls and say, hey, guess what? This isn't who we are. Like our team was winning. Our team was winning these games. We were winning these games 2 months ago. And now all of a sudden, we battle back, but we lose by 1, 2, whatever it might be. Like, no, that's not us. That's
I don't even mind the Boston loss. I don't mind it. What I mind is like the 6-1 or 6-2 blowouts.
Yeah.
Like those, I'm just like, wow, we're not even close right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And the one thing that could win us those games, goaltending.
Yep.
Bringing it back to the starting point.
Well, and I think like you've both kind of said it. We need to acknowledge too that like this has been a wild season. Like so much has happened in this organization during this season where it's like eventually that's going to catch up to them.
Yeah.
Not
don't
even talking about Gauthier.
Be happy that it was there, man.
It's just
be happy you were along for the ride. Like, no, I don't want this ride to end. That's the problem.
we got a little sniff of success, but like, all right, if the season ends tomorrow and like we happen to not make the playoffs, I still look at this year as a success in comparison to the expectations.
100%.
Give me a week though of being disappointed. I think I'll have a week where I'm just like, it was so damn close.
Right.
It's our MO.
And then once the dust settles, I'll be like, okay, yep, this was a great season.
You also look at it, I look at teams like New Jersey. I look at a team like Ottawa who like,
came into the season.
It brought in just all sorts. And, I'm scared for that next year. It's like, oh, these guys, they added these couple pieces or they've grown these few folks. Now the expectations are higher. Like I'm scared of that part of it as much as I am of being like the bottom feeder who overachieves, but I'd rather be in that position, quite frankly.
I think Casey, we're going to be in a similar position next year where it's like the beginning of the year, the pundits are going to put us towards the bottom. Like I don't expect this team to make any crazy moves that on paper make this a better roster. Where it will be another year of like, we're going to have to outperform expectations.
Yeah.
It's going to be that way until we get Michkov over here, until we get higher end talent. Like we're going to have to battle. We're going to have to battle for every shred of relevancy for this team. Like, and that's the spirit that this city embodies, it's the spirit this team would embody. So hey, Philly's always about the underdog. That's fine. Like, this is a true underdog here right now. Shouldn't be where they're at right now.
Danny
It's
B in
fantastic.
3 years on his horse. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming.
I cracked the joke about Sanheim going off the ice here today. I could have been sick. I don't know. And I'm just like, Danny B phoned down. He's like, it's time. We're going to get him. And Sanheim was the recruit. I'm like, more believable if it was like Delorier and Hathaway.
Sanheim left the ice today?
Yeah, he wasn't in any pain, any visible pain. It might have just been that he was
emotional.
Sick. What was it?
I heard
a couple years ago.
I heard he had the flu in Boston. Like I heard he was
Sanheim flu game.
Yeah. I heard he had the flu and he was like tough. Like
I could barely eat a sandwich with the flu. I don't know how anybody's going to play hockey.
Oh boy, right? Different breed, man. Different breed.
That ain't me. I can barely.
It is when you're only one of 2 NHL caliber defensemen on a roster.
Right.
That's for
like,
sure.
Get in the locker room between periods, hook the IV up. Let's go. We don't have time. So again, we kind of alluded to it here, and things are kind of starting to, wire down here a little bit in regards to the show, but upcoming schedule and what the Flyers have. Obviously, Flyers have the Toronto Maple Leafs Tuesday night. After that, they're looking at Boston again, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry. They're looking at the Canes, then the Bruins, Panthers, Rangers, and then Montreal, Chicago, Islanders, Sabres, Jackets, Canadians, followed up by Rangers, Devils, Caps.
We better
educated guesses here.
We better get to Montreal or Chicago and put up like 9 goals a game after this gauntlet.
And make up for the goal differential we suffered.
I mean, can you... The stretch is what? You said it's Toronto, Boston.
Toronto, Carolina, Boston.
And then
Florida. Rangers, Habs.
Okay, well, let's stop at that 5.
Florida and Rangers, 5 games against top-tier opponents.
Can everybody see a world where we are on a 7-game losing streak by the end of this? Like, this is
no doubt about it.
Awful.
It's terrible. Really, and that Boston, Florida is back to back. Like, Jesus Christ! Like, and Florida's going to want to beat the piss out of us after we've beaten them twice. I would love to be able to pull up. All right, if you got to, so Toronto, Carolina, Boston, Florida, Rangers.
Yeah,
you have to choose one game. You got to choose one that you're like, okay, we can only win one of these games. Who's it going to be?
Rangers.
Mine's the Rangers.
100% the Rangers.
Like you want them to win? Yeah, absolutely the Rangers. I thought you were saying like realistically. Because it ain't the Rangers.
Realistically,
100%.
Dude,
get the monkey off your back. You haven't been able to beat the Rangers. That's
tell you,
goes a long way for their confidence.
The Carolina Hurricanes are catching up on the Rangers. The last thing I need is the New York Rangers to be the 2 seed and we be the 3 seed. I do not need a round of playoff hockey against the Rangers right now.
Nope. God. I'm gonna talk about being on the edge. That'll set you over.
So that's a week. So a week from tomorrow, like the pain subsides. It's like, all right, we can come up for a breath. It's going to be a long, long week. If we can somehow salvage 3 points out of those 4 games, I'll be happy. I'll be like, okay, we're still there and we're hanging around. Out of those, is it 5 games? Yeah, 5 games. 3 points out of 5 games.
I have a good epitome of a Ranger fan story for you. It just happened Friday. So Friday was the last day of work before spring break, and then I'm likely going to be on paternity leave. And Fridays are dress down days for us. So I wore a Flyers t-shirt and jeans. And it was warm on Friday, so I didn't have like my jacket on the subway. So we get on the subway. I finally get to Penn Station, and I'm getting off, and the guy next to me goes, "Flyers playing the Rangers tonight?" I said, "No, they're not playing the Rangers tonight." "Oh, you're just wearing the Flyers shirt in Madison Square Garden just for the hell of it?" I was like, "Yeah,
buddy. What of it?"
"Oh, well, isn't that interesting?" I was like, "Dude, name 3 players on the Rangers, you asswipe."
One of my buddies, he's a Rangers fan now, but like, when did we play them in the playoffs? Like 2013, 2014, somewhere around there.
Something like that.
It went to 7, but we were like watching at a bar. I was still living in the city at the time, and we're watching at a bar, and he's like, and Carcillo was on the Rangers at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we got this guy, Dan Carrillo. And I'm like, you don't even know the name of your freaking team.
And this Dan Carrillo guy's great. They call him Car Bomb. Yeah, very familiar with that, buddy.
It is brutal being around Rangers fans, though, because they are the first ones to tuck tail and run when they don't make the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. They have zero interest in hockey if their team's not doing well.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you guys have that up there. A lot of the people down where I'm at are either Caps or mainly Pittsburgh fans. Like,
what?
We're 4 hours from Pittsburgh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. A ton. I mean, it's Steelers, like Steelers too. So Pittsburgh, everything. Everybody's all, everybody's in Philly. 4 for 4, like Pittsburgh. You're diehard Pittsburgh. You don't like the Steelers, and then you like, the Orioles, and you like, another team or the Rangers or something. You like Pittsburgh everything.
Well, because you really like the color combo.
It's the same for every goddamn team.
But wait, it's
black and gold.
Is York like between Lancaster and Gettysburg, basically?
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's Steelers country? I thought that was still in Flyers.
No, I'm not.
Flyers
it's
domain.
not. I'm not calling it Steelers country. It's a melting pot. I'll put it that way.
Right.
You
I'm
have
waiting for a Molotov cocktail to come through your window from a Flyers. They're like, whoa.
like, I'm on your team here. You've got because you've got Baltimore, which is 45 minutes south. You've got Philadelphia's 2 hours east. Pittsburgh's 4 hours west, and then you've got obviously the Washington area. New York's not that far, and then Jersey too. So like you're in the middle of everything. So there's people that are,
I'm not a time genius by any stretch, but I do feel like 2 hours is less than 4.
Well, 45 minutes is less than 2. I could be a Baltimore, Washington fan.
But you were selling the Steelers.
Baltimore doesn't have a hockey team.
Well, Washington does. Same area, whatever.
Baltimore Bullets, bring them back.
I'm a Flyers fan, all right? No, you are right, but I mean, it's Pennsylvania, the steel industry over there, yada yada yada, whatever. But yeah,
blue collar.
I can't even remember what my point was, but whatever.
It's bedtime.
Yeah, it's bedtime. So let's wrap things up here in terms of where they're going to be able to find you, Casey, because they won't be able to find John because he's a dick and quit X.
Hey, Pod
Not
Street
ecstasy.
I'm on.
I'll never quit that.
I'm on there about 30 minutes a day. You'll know what 30 I'm on. Nice.
It'll just be a bunch of likes.
A lot of likes. A lot of gifs or gifs. Whatever. IRL.
All right.
The kids on my team are like, yeah, let's get them in IRL. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? What's IRL? Like in real life. I'm like, get out of my office.
Wasn't that like a racing league too? Like it was like not like a
Indie
subdivision of NASCAR. Yeah, like Indie Racing League. There you go. So you can find me on Twitter, Pod Street Bob. We're all on Twitter here at Pod St Bullies. Our affiliates as well, Flyers High and Wide. They're on Twitter at Flyers HW, and the 5 Minute Major Podcast on Twitter at 5 Min Major Pod. Until next week, let's hope for the best, expect the worst, so we won't be let down.
Bye now.